In June 2026, SpaceX executed its initial public offering at a valuation of $1.77 trillion. That single financial event pushed Elon Musk's net worth past the trillion-dollar mark, making him the wealthiest private citizen in recorded history. 18 years earlier, that outcome was mathematically improbable. In December 2008, Musk was out of money, navigating a difficult divorce, and by his own admission, edging toward a nervous breakdown. He had poured his entire fortune into two massive hardware wagers, SpaceX and Tesla. Both companies were severely bleeding cash, and both were only days away from bankruptcy. The gap between complete financial ruin and a trillion-dollar empire is difficult to reconcile. Surviving that kind of extreme volatility requires a specific mechanism. Musk's survival through 2008 was the result of a ruthless, physics-based psychological framework, an operating system he began forging decades earlier. He grew up in 1970s Pretoria, South Africa, against the backdrop of a collapsing apartheid regime and a highly volatile home environment. His relationship with his father was marked by severe emotional strain and verbal abuse. Musk would later view this extreme early adversity not as trauma that breaks a person, but as a test designed to forge resilience. His primary escape mechanism was isolation. He read up to 10 hours a day, eventually working his way through 2 entire sets of encyclopedias to map out how different concepts and industries connected to one another. This produced a cognitive trait, first principles thinking. Faced with his fear of the dark, he broke the problem down to its fundamental truth. Darkness is defined as the absence of photons. By reducing it to a lack of particles, he rationalized the fear. Reducing terrifying emotional and physical problems to cold, manageable physics equations became the permanent operating system for his mind. By 1999, Musk had sold his first tech venture, Zip2, earning a $22 million payout. Instead of securing his future with the capital, the 28-year-old wagered a massive $18 million on a new startup. He called it X.com. His vision was to build the ultimate online hub that would process every kind of financial transaction in the world. X.com immediately entered an intense early internet payments war with a rival startup called Confinity, which operated out of the same Palo Alto office space and wanted to be money between handheld devices. Musk applied an aggressive growth tactic, intentionally bleeding money by paying new users $20 at sign-up. The share cash burn forced Confinity co-founder Peter Thiel to agree to a merger. Musk's blind obsession with retaining the X branding eventually led to a boardroom coup that ousted him as CEO. But when the combined company, now known as PayPal, sold to eBay in 2002, Musk walked away with $180 million. That software victory provided the capital required to apply his all-or-nothing risk tolerance to a vastly more dangerous environment, physical engineering. In 2002, Musk decided he wanted to send a rocket to Mars. He immediately had a financial roadblock. Purchasing a traditional rocket on the open market cost approximately $65 million. He approached the bloated aerospace industry using first principles, breaking the vehicle down to its absolute physical truths. He calculated the commodity market cost of a rocket's raw materials: aerospace-grade aluminum, titanium, copper, and carbon fiber. Those metals accounted for barely 2% of the standard asking price. To build the vehicles in-house, he devoured Soviet rocket manuals and relocated to Los Angeles, positioning himself geographically to absorb knowledge directly from NASA consultants. He then placed the ultimate wager, pouring virtually his entire $180 million PayPal fortune into 2 parallel hardware startups, SpaceX and Tesla. By funding both massive manufacturing efforts simultaneously, he guaranteed his bank account would hit zero unless his engineering teams could iterate and succeed before the cash ran out. Which brings us back to 2008. The engineering feedback loop was failing. SpaceX had just suffered 3 consecutive catastrophic rocket launch failures. At the exact same time, Tesla was drowning in production delays. With the 2008 global financial crash freezing the markets, securing outside capital was nearly impossible. Then the data processed. SpaceX's crucial 4th launch succeeded, prompting NASA to award the struggling company a $1.5 billion contract to supply the International Space Station. The agreement provided the long-term revenue and validation the company needed to stay solvent. Days later, on Christmas Eve, Tesla secured a desperate last-minute capital injection from investors to keep the electric car dream alive. Surviving the 2008 abyss proved his method. The brutal engineering feedback loop of building, failing, and correcting actually worked. He simply had to endure the losses long enough for the loop to close. He scaled that hardware infrastructure massively throughout the 2010s, giving him the leverage to execute a chaotic $44 billion acquisition of Twitter in 2022. While the general public saw corporate chaos, Musk was executing the exact same hardware engineering mindset on a social network, rapidly prototyping features and stripping the system down to its structural studs. He fulfilled his 1999 obsession by rebranding the platform to X. When he merged it with his artificial intelligence startup XAI in 2025, the deal yielded a $33 billion windfall. By 2026, the immense valuation of the SpaceX IPO officially pushed his net worth past $1 trillion. This historic empire is built by forcing reality through a rigid framework of physics, iterating until the math finally works. To let that process run, he developed an unusual psychological tolerance for standing repeatedly on the edge of the abyss and refusing to blink.